My wife called it my golden years vitamin. It was poison. She was stealing my mind, getting ready to steal my life. They thought the old builder was finished. They were about to find out some foundations are impossible to break. The smell of sawdust always felt like home. Pine and oak, that was the smell of my life. 40 years as a builder. My name is Thomas. I build things to last. Solid foundations, strong walls. I thought the life I built with my wife, Linda, was just as solid. I was wrong. Terribly wrong. If you're listening to this, subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're watching from. It helps to know I'm not alone. Because for a while there, I truly was. It was a Tuesday afternoon, bright and clear. I had just left the lumber yard. I was 65. Retirement was close, but I liked keeping busy. My hands needed to work. They always did. I glanced at the clock in my old pickup. Just past 2, my route home took me near my daughter's neighborhood. Sarah lived there with her husband, Mark. They had a nice little bungalow. Mark was all ambition. Slick suits and big talk about real estate. But he couldn't hang a picture straight. I smiled. Maybe I'd swing by. Mark was struggling with some kitchen shelves. He wasn't a bad kid, just too focused on appearances. But he loved Sarah. That was enough for me. Or so I thought. I turned onto their street. Quiet. Lined with big oak trees. The sun was warm on my arm. Everything felt normal. Everything felt right. I slowed the truck as I neared their house. Number 32. And then I saw it. Parked right at the gate, shining in the sun, was Linda's car. My wife's silver sedan. I tapped the brakes. Confusion hit first. Linda was supposed to be at the mall. A whole day for herself, she said. She never mentioned stopping here. Why would she? Sarah was a nurse. She wouldn't be home until evening. Maybe she dropped something off for Mark? That didn't sit right. Linda and Mark weren't close. They were polite, but they never spent time alone. It was like oil and water. A cold knot tightened in my stomach. Something was wrong. The street was too silent. The house looked too still. The way the car was parked, half hidden behind a large hedge. It looked secretive. It looked deliberate. I pulled my truck over, a few houses down, cut the engine. The silence was heavy now. 38 years we'd been married. I trusted Linda, but the knot wouldn't loosen. My gut screamed at me. This wasn't a casual visit. This felt planned. I had to know. I got out of the truck. My old work boots were soft on the grass. I walked up to the house quietly. I felt like a spy in my own life. As I neared the porch, I noticed the big bay window, the one I installed last summer. It was cracked open a few inches, and I heard voices. They weren't happy voices. They were sharp, tense, like a wire pulled too tight. "It has to be done now, Mark. We can't wait any longer." That was Linda. Her voice was low, fierce, a tone I'd never heard her use, a tone that chilled my blood. "I know, Linda, but it's risky," Mark replied, his voice strained, anxious. "If Sarah finds out what we're doing, she'll never forgive me. She adores him." "Adores who? Me?" My heart pounded, slow, heavy beats against my ribs. I couldn't move. I leaned closer to the window, hidden by a rose bush. "Sarah doesn't need to know the details," Linda snapped. Her words hit like stones. "She only needs to know that her father is struggling, that he's not safe managing his own affairs anymore." My blood ran cold. Struggling? I was fine. What was she saying? "But he seems fine," Mark argued weakly. "He's still taking on jobs. He's sharp." "He's not fine," Linda hissed. The venom in her voice was terrifying. "He's forgetting everything." Then she said the words that changed everything. "And the medication is working perfectly. He's confused, tired. The doctor is already convinced. We have enough documentation. The conservatorship is practically guaranteed." I felt dizzy. The world tilted sideways. Medication? I didn't take medication. Conservatorship. They wanted to take control of my life, like I was a child. "And we need the access," Mark continued. His tone shifted. It wasn't anxious anymore. It was desperate. Hard. "My business is bleeding money, Linda. You know that. This new development deal is falling apart." He sounded frantic now. "If we don't get control of his savings and the equity in the main house, I'm going under. We'll lose everything." The pieces clicked into place. It wasn't about my health. It was about my money, my life savings, the house I built. But Linda's next words were the ones that truly broke me. "And I deserve it," Linda said. Her voice dripped with a bitterness I never knew existed. 38 years supporting him, while he was busy playing with his tools. I'm tired of worrying about money, while he sits on that nest egg. Nest egg. The money I saved through decades of sweat and broken fingernails. It's my turn, she continued. We sell the house, we pay off your debts, and we start over. Properly. Then the final blow. And Whispering Pines is a lovely facility. They'll be safe there. Whispering Pines. That wasn't a retirement home. It was a memory care facility. A place for people who couldn't remember their own names. A place people went to die. The words hit me like physical blows. They wanted to declare me incompetent, lock me away, steal my life, my house, every nail, every beam. They wanted to sell it, and it wasn't just Mark, the greedy son-in-law. It was Linda, my wife, the woman I loved. I couldn't breathe. The air felt thick, heavy. I stumbled back from the window. My back hit the rough brick wall. The voices inside continued, plotting, planning, dismantling my existence. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a betrayal. Cold, cruel, calculated. I wasn't a husband. I was an asset to be liquidated. I pushed myself off the wall. My legs trembled.
I had to get out of there.
I needed to think. I needed to understand how the foundations of my life had crumbled without me noticing a single crack. I walked back to my truck. Each step felt like wading through concrete. The sunny day now felt harsh. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Linda's car at the gate. The image burned into my memory. I drove away. I ended up at the park, by the lake. The place where I used to take Sarah when she was little. I sat on a bench and watched the water, trying to process the poison I had just swallowed. Conservatorship. Medication. Whispering Pines. The words swirled in my mind. Fear and disbelief. How long had this been going on? How many times had Linda smiled at me, kissed me, and lied? Every memory. It all felt tainted. Dirty. I thought about the past few months. I'd been feeling tired, foggy, forgetting things. Keys, names. I blamed it on age. 65. It happens. But Linda's words echoed. The medication is working perfectly. What medication? I didn't take any medication. Or did I? A horrifying thought struck me. It hit me like a lightning bolt, illuminating the darkness. Vitamins. Linda had been insisting I take new vitamins. For the past few months. A special blend, she said. For energy. For mental clarity. She brought them to me every morning, with my coffee. I took them without question. I trusted her. My stomach churned. Was it possible? Was my wife drugging me? This was the twist that shattered the last remnants of my denial. The depth of her betrayal wasn't just about money. She wasn't waiting for me to decline. She was engineering it. She wasn't just stealing my assets. She was stealing my mind. She was deliberately making me weak, confused, so she could lock me away. It was a violation so deep, so intimate, it left me breathless. I wasn't just scared anymore. I was angry. A cold, hard rage replaced the shock. I wasn't going to end up drooling in a chair at Whispering Pines. I drove home. The house was silent. The house they wanted to steal. I walked through the rooms, touching the walls, the kitchen cabinets I had custom built. This was my anchor, my legacy. They would not take it from me. I went straight to the kitchen cabinet. I found the bottle of vitamins. I looked closely at the label. Optimal Senior Health. It looked legitimate, but I knew better now. I took the bottle and put it in my pocket. I needed proof. As I walked outside, my neighbor, Miss Eleanor Vance, was tending her roses. She was an observant woman, too observant. "Thomas, dear, are you all right?" she called out, peering over her fence. "You look pale as a ghost." "I'm fine, Eleanor. Just tired." I forced a smile. "Well, Linda mentioned you were having some trouble," Eleanor said, her voice dripping with pity. "Forgetting things. She's worried sick. It happens to the best of us, dear." I froze. Linda had been busy poisoning the well, turning my neighbors against me, building her case in public opinion. "Right. Thanks, Eleanor." I walked away. I felt her eyes on my back. Another person convinced I was falling apart. The isolation was already starting. The evening stretched before me, long and terrifying. I waited for Linda to come home. I needed to pretend everything was normal. It was the hardest performance of my life. Pretending I still loved the woman who was destroying me. When Linda finally walked through the door, her arms were full of shopping bags. She was smiling, bright, happy. "Thomas, you won't believe the deals I found," she chirped. "I got that lovely jacket you liked at Macy's. Half off." Her normalcy was grotesque. I looked at her, really looked at her. It all seemed like a mask now. A mask hiding a monster. "How was your day?" she asked brightly, setting the bags down on the table. "I made 20 years ago. It was fine," I managed. My voice sounded strange. Hollow. I needed to test the waters. "Did you get everything you needed at the mall?" She smiled, hanging up her coat. "Oh yes, it was packed, but I managed." "You must have been there all day," I said, leaning against the counter. "Casual." "I was," she said brightly. "Why?" "It's just, I thought I saw your car near Sarah's house," I said. I watched her closely. She paused, just for a fraction of a second. Her hand went to her necklace, fiddling with the clasp. A nervous habit I hadn't noticed in years. "Sarah's house," she repeated. The lie was smooth, effortless. "No, I was nowhere near there." "Are you sure?" I pressed, gently. "The silver sedan looked just like yours." She laughed. A light, dismissive sound. It grated on my nerves. "Oh, Thomas, there are thousands of silver sedans in this city." Then she twisted the knife. She walked closer, touching my arm gently. Her eyes were full of fake concern. "Honey, are you feeling okay? You look exhausted. Maybe you're confusing things again." There it was. Gaslighting. The suggestion that I was confused. Unreliable. I had to stand there and take it. If I reacted angrily, if I called her a liar, it would only support her narrative. It would prove I was unstable. "Maybe," I said slowly. I pulled my arm away, pretending to rub my eyes. "You're right. I am tired." I couldn't push it. If I confronted her now, I'd lose the only advantage I had. They didn't know I knew. That secret was my only weapon. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Linda slept peacefully beside me. The rhythmic sound of her breathing, once a comfort, now felt menacing. The woman I had shared my life with was a stranger. A predator. The silence of the house felt suffocating. I felt trapped in my own home. The next morning, Linda was up early. The smell of coffee filled the kitchen. She was humming, happy. She brought me my coffee and the little white cup with the vitamins. "Here you go, honey," she said cheerfully. "Don't forget these. You need your strength." I looked at the pills. Small, oval, harmless looking. Poison. I took the pills from her hand. My heart was racing. I had to do this right. I pretended to swallow them, washing them down with the coffee, hiding them under my tongue. It was an old trick. When she turned her back to butter the toast, I spat them out. I wrapped them in a napkin and put them in my pocket. I had to get them tested. I needed proof. I needed help. I needed a lawyer, someone I could trust, someone outside Linda's circle. I thought of Mr. Harrison, an old friend. We hadn't spoken much in years, but I built his law library decades ago. He specialized in elder law, and I knew he was a man of integrity, a straight shooter. I called his office. His secretary tried to schedule me for next week. "This is Thomas," I said, my voice tight. I was nervous. What if he didn't believe me? "Tell him it's urgent. It's a private matter." I emphasized the next part. "I cannot have my wife knowing about this meeting." He heard the urgency in my voice. He agreed to see me that afternoon. Mr. Harrison's office was quiet, professional, the scent of old paper and leather, familiar, safe. He was older now, grayer, but his eyes were sharp. He shook my hand firmly. "Thomas, it's been a while. You look troubled," he said, gesturing for me to sit. I laid everything out. The overheard conversation at Sarah's house, the plan for conservatorship, Mark's debts, and my suspicion about the drugging. I pulled the napkin out of my pocket and placed the 2 pills on his desk. Mr. Harrison listened patiently. He didn't interrupt, he just watched me, his face growing grim. He picked up the pills, examining them closely. "Thomas, this is horrifying," he said when I finished. His voice was low, serious. "If what you are saying is true, your wife and son-in-law are committing serious crimes. Fraud, elder abuse, and potentially poisoning." "I know it sounds crazy," I said. Desperation crept into my voice. "I sound like a paranoid old man, but it's true. They want to lock me away and steal everything." "I believe you, Thomas," he said firmly. It was a relief to hear those words, but believing you isn't enough. We need proof. He leaned forward. "We need to get these pills tested immediately. I know a private lab. Discreet and quick. They won't ask questions." He put the pills in an evidence bag and locked them in his desk drawer. "And we need more," he continued. "We need to prove your competency, and we need evidence of their intent. In their own words, he advised me to immediately undergo a full cognitive assessment by an independent doctor, not the family doctor, Dr. Evans, that Linda had mentioned, and secure your finances, Thomas." Now, Lundy left his office feeling a shred of hope. I wasn't alone in this fight, but that hope didn't last long. The next day, Linda insisted I see Dr. Evans, the one she said was already convinced. I couldn't refuse without raising suspicion. Dr. Evans' office was sleek, modern, cold. He was young, ambitious, much like Mark. "Thomas, good to see you," Dr. Evans said smoothly, barely looking up from his tablet. "Linda tells me you've been feeling foggy." I tried to explain I was fine, but he kept interrupting me, asking confusing questions, twisting my words. It felt less like an exam and more like an interrogation. "It seems your memory is significantly impaired, Thomas," he concluded after only 15 minutes. He looked at me with that practiced, sympathetic smile. "I'm recommending a specialist evaluation for early onset dementia." He hadn't listened to a word I said. He was already convinced. Or perhaps he was already paid. I realized how deep the conspiracy went. They had allies everywhere. I went straight to the bank. I needed to check the accounts. I hadn't looked in months. Linda handled all the bills. Another mistake. When I saw the numbers, my heart sank. The joint savings account, almost empty. Tens of thousands of dollars, gone. Transferred to an account I didn't recognize. Mark's account. They weren't just planning to steal from me. They were already doing it. I felt sick. I had to protect what was left. My retirement account, the one solely in my name. I went to the bank manager, a young man named Mr. Davis. Crisp suit. Nervous energy. He kept adjusting his tie. Mr. Davis kept glancing at his computer screen, then back at me. He was sweating slightly. The air in his office felt too cold. "Is there a problem?" I asked. I wanted to transfer my funds to a new account. "I'm sorry, Mr. Thomas," he said slowly, staring at his screen. "A temporary hold has been placed on this account." The room suddenly felt colder. "A hold?" I demanded. Panic clawed at my throat. "Why?" "Your wife expressed concerns about unauthorized access," he said awkwardly. "She said you were having some difficulties. It's protocol when potential cognitive issues are raised. They were closing in, cutting off my escape route. The system designed to protect me was being used against me. I'm sitting right here, Mr. Davis." "I'm perfectly fine," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Release my funds." "I'm sorry, Mr. Thomas. I cannot do that. It's for your protection." Protection. The irony was sickening. I had to walk away. Defeated. My own money held hostage by my wife's lies. I needed money. I needed allies. I called Bob Jenkins, an old colleague. We built houses together for 20 years. I thought he was a friend. "Bob, it's Thomas. I'm in a tight spot. I need a short-term loan, just until I can access my accounts." There was a long silence on the line. The silence stretched, heavy. "Thomas," Bob said slowly, "I heard you were having some trouble." "Trouble? What trouble?" My blood ran cold. "Linda called me," Bob said, sounding uncomfortable. "She said you've been making some bad investments, that you were confused about money. She asked me not to lend you anything. Said it would just enable you. I'm sorry, Thomas. He hung up. She hadn't just stolen my money. She was stealing my reputation, my friendships. She was erasing me. I had one last hope. Sarah, my daughter. She had to believe me. I met her for lunch near the hospital. She looked tired, stressed. She was biting her lower lip, a habit she'd had since childhood. Dad, I'm glad you called, she said, squeezing my hand. I'm worried about you. My heart sank. They got to her already. Worried? Why? Mom says you've been getting so forgetful, she said gently. Her eyes filled with genuine concern. She said you forgot to pay the electricity bill. And Dr. Evans called. He's very concerned. Lies. Manipulations. They had poisoned her mind against me. I'm fine, Sarah. I have something I need to tell you. About Mom and Mark. I tried to explain. The conservatorship. The money. The plan to put me away. But the words came out rushed. Desperate. I sounded paranoid. Even to myself. Sarah listened. Her expression shifted from concern to disbelief. She pulled her hand back. She folded her arms across her chest, a wall going up between us. Dad, that's crazy, she said, shaking her head. Mom and Mark, that makes no sense. Mark might be struggling, but he would never steal. And Mom, she loves you. I heard them, Sarah. Conservatorship, Whispering Pines. I heard them talking about medication. Medication? She gasped. Dad, are you accusing Mom of drugging you? Here's his paranoia. This is exactly what she was worried about. She looked at me with pity. It stung more than anger. Please, Dad, stop this, she pleaded. You need help. She didn't believe me. My own daughter thought I was losing my mind. The pain of her disbelief was sharper than Linda's betrayal. It cut deeper than any knife. She saw me as a confused old man, not a victim. I left the lunch completely isolated. Alone, they had turned my world against me. I sat in my truck in the parking lot. I couldn't drive. I put my head against the steering wheel. The weight of it all crashed down on me. The betrayal, the isolation, the fear, and I wept, silent, racking sobs, for the life I lost, for the family that was never real. I was broken. This story has your heart racing. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Every click helps us keep uncovering stories that deserve to be heard. Because sometimes the truth is the only thing that can set you free, and I was about to fight for it. 2 days later, Mr. Harrison called. I was in my workshop, trying to focus on sanding a piece of oak. The familiar routine was the only thing keeping me grounded. Thomas, the lab results are in, he said. No small talk, I held my breath. The vitamins were benzodiazepines, sedatives, strong ones, lorazepam, high doses. I closed my eyes. The confirmation felt like a punch to the gut. It was real. It was malicious. It was evil. They were drugging you, Thomas. Mr. Harrison said, his voice filled with anger. They were deliberately impairing your cognitive functions. This is criminal. I thought about the fog, the confusion. It wasn't age. It was poison, administered by my wife. Every morning with a smile and a cup of coffee. My mind felt clearer now. I had stopped taking the poison days ago. The fog was lifting, and the anger was growing, a cold, hard anger. I also received the results from the independent cognitive assessment. I had to sell some of my antique tools to pay for it. It hurt, but it was necessary. You're perfectly healthy, Thomas, Mr. Harrison said. The report states your cognitive functions are above average. You're sharp as a tack. The doctor is willing to testify. I felt a surge of relief. I wasn't crazy. What do we do now? I asked. My voice was steady now. The fear was gone, replaced by cold determination. We need to catch them admitting their plan, Mr. Harrison said. We need undeniable proof. Video, you have to set a trap. I knew what I had to do. I had to play the part they had written for me. The confused old man, the dementia patient. I had to make them believe they were winning. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I deliberately misplaced my keys. I forgot names. I repeated stories. I acted confused, Irritable, I shuffled when I walked. Linda watched me with faux concern, her eyes gleaming with victory. "Oh, Thomas," she would sigh. "It's getting worse. We need to do something." It wasn't pity in her eyes. It was contempt. I bought several small, high-definition hidden cameras, disguised as phone chargers and smoke detectors. I installed them in the living room, the kitchen, and my workshop. My survival depended on it. I had to document everything. I waited. I watched the footage every night, hidden in the basement. They became careless, arrogant. They started discussing their plans openly, believing I was too far gone to understand. One afternoon, Mark came to the house while Linda was out. He found me in the workshop. I was pretending to struggle with a simple clamp. He stood in the doorway, blocking the light. He adjusted his expensive cuffs. A smirk on his face. The air felt thick with tension. He stood too close, invading my space. "Thomas, you shouldn't be playing with these tools," he said. His voice dripped with condescension. I'm making a table," I mumbled, looking down. "Are you sure?" he sneered. He picked up a sharp chisel. "Maybe it's time you let go of this place. Before you make a mess you can't clean up." His threat was clear. He was trying to intimidate me. I had to resist the urge to punch the smug look off his face. I had to maintain my facade. "I'm fine, Mark." "Sure, old man," he said, clapping me on the shoulder too hard. He walked out laughing. I clenched my fists. Not yet. Soon, they accelerated their timeline. They saw my decline speeding up. They got greedy. I received a formal notice in the mail. A petition for conservatorship. The hearing was scheduled in 10 days. The clock was ticking. I needed the confession, and then I caught it. It was a Thursday evening. I had pretended to fall asleep in my armchair in the living room. I snored loudly, keeping my breathing deep and even. Linda and Mark were in the kitchen, drinking wine. The camera above the kitchen island caught everything. "The hearing is next week," Mark said. Excited, he poured himself another glass of expensive Chardonnay. "My Chardonnay. The lawyer says the case is solid. Dr. Evans is ready to testify. Thomas is barely lucid anymore. Did you see him today? He couldn't even remember how to use the coffee machine. I had deliberately put the coffee filter in upside down. It's the medication," Linda said, swirling the wine in her glass. I could see her reflection in the refrigerator. She was smiling. "I increased the dose slightly," she confessed. Casually, "He's pathetic. I can't believe I wasted so many years with him." Pathetic. The word stung. But I remained still. "Once the conservatorship is granted, we sell the house," Mark said. "We should get at least $600,000, plus his retirement savings. That's enough to clear my debts. We'll take a long vacation," Linda said, her voice dreamy. "Bali, the Maldives. We deserve it. And Thomas will be safe at Whispering Pines," Linda added. "He won't even know where he is." Hearing the cold calculation of their betrayal was agonizing. They talked about me like I was already dead. But it was also liberating. I had them. I had the undeniable proof. I waited until they went to bed. I retrieved the memory card and transferred the footage to a secure drive. I gave a copy to Mr. Harrison the next morning. "Yes, we got them, Thomas," he said, his voice grim. "We got them cold. We were ready." The builder was about to start the demolition. The day of the hearing arrived. I dressed carefully, a suit I hadn't worn in years. My hands were steady. I felt a strange sense of calm, the calm of a man who knows the truth and is ready to fight for his life. I looked in the mirror. My eyes were clear, focused. I was not the confused old man they wanted the world to see. When I walked into the courtroom with Mr. Harrison, Linda and Mark stared at me. They were sitting with their lawyer, a slick man named Mr. Smith. They looked surprised. They expected a broken old man, not a man walking tall, his head held high. I saw a flicker of uncertainty in Linda's eyes. Fear. Sarah was there, sitting in the gallery, looking pale and anxious. She looked at me with pity. It broke my heart, but I knew that in a few minutes, that pity would turn to horror. The hearing began. The judge, an older woman with a stern expression, called the case. Mr. Smith presented their case. Smooth, persuasive. He painted a picture of a man lost to dementia, a danger to himself. He called Dr. Evans to the stand. Dr. Evans testified smoothly, confidently. He confirmed my cognitive decline. He listed dates, symptoms, his professional opinion that I needed immediate care. He looked smug, complicit. He lied under oath. Then Mr. Smith called Linda. She walked up, the picture of a concerned, devoted wife. She cried perfect tears, describing my decline, my paranoia. He accused me of stealing from him, she sobbed. My own husband. It's the disease talking, not him. I just want him to be safe, she pleaded with the judge. Whispering Pines is the best place for him. It was an award-winning performance, a masterful manipulation. Sarah was crying silently. The judge looked convinced. I felt a moment of panic. What if the truth wasn't enough? When it was my turn, Mr. Harrison stood up. He walked to the podium slowly, deliberately. Your Honor, he began, his voice calm, we would like to present evidence that completely contradicts the petitioner's claims. He presented the independent medical assessment, the report confirming my perfect cognitive health. Mr. Smith objected immediately. Objection. This assessment is biased. A hired gun. We have the testimony of Dr. Evans. But we have more, Mr. Harrison said, his voice booming. We have evidence of a calculated conspiracy to defraud Mr. Thomas and manipulate this court. He looked directly at Linda and Mark. Their faces paled. We asked the court's permission to play a video recording. The courtroom was silent. The large screen flickered to life. The image was clear. The kitchen of my house. Linda and Mark, drinking wine. The date and timestamp visible in the corner. Their voices filled the room. Mark, the hearing is next week. The lawyer says the case is solid. Thomas is barely lucid anymore. Mark, once the conservatorship is granted, we sell the house. 600,000. Clear my debts. Linda, we'll take a long vacation. Bali, we deserve it. Linda and Thomas will be safe at Whispering Pines. He won't even know where he is. The courtroom gasped as the most damning part played. Linda, it's the medication. Linda, I increased the dose slightly. He's pathetic. I can't believe I wasted so many years with him. Linda gasped in the courtroom, her hand flying to her mouth. Her face turned white. She looked like she was going to faint. Mark slumped in his chair, his head in his hands. Defeated, Mr. Smith looked horrified. He realized he had been used. Sarah stared at the screen, her eyes wide with horror. The realization of what her mother and husband had done crashed down on her. The lies, the poisoning of her mind against me. She let out a choked sob, a sound of pure devastation. My heart ached for her, but Mr. Harrison wasn't finished. He held up the lab report. We also have this, he said, his voice ringing with authority, proof that Mrs. Linda has been systematically poisoning her husband with high doses of benzodiazepines. Lorazepam disguised as vitamins. He laid the report on the judge's bench. She was simulating the cognitive decline she so movingly described. She was trying to steal his mind before stealing his life. The courtroom erupted. The judge hammered her gavel, demanding order. Her face was thunderous with rage. She stared at Linda and Mark with utter contempt. In all my years on the bench, the judge said, her voice shaking with controlled anger, I have never seen such a despicable, cruel attempt at fraud and elder abuse. She looked at Linda. This is about the attempted destruction of a man's life. His dignity, his mind. She dismissed the petition for conservatorship immediately. I am ordering the transcript and the evidence of this hearing to be sent to the district attorney's office. The judge announced, I recommend immediate criminal charges against Linda Thomas and Mark Davis for fraud, perjury, attempted theft, and assault by poisoning. She also noted Dr. Evans' testimony for review by the medical board. Linda and Mark were escorted out of the courtroom by bailiffs. Linda was sobbing hysterically, the realization of the consequences finally hitting her. The mask was gone. Mark was silent. His ambition, his greed had destroyed his life. And Sarah's. I stood in the courtroom. The adrenaline was fading. I felt no sense of victory, only a profound emptiness. I had won my freedom. but I had lost the woman I thought I would grow old with. Sarah rushed towards me, her face stained with tears. She was shaking. "Dad! Oh, Dad, I'm so sorry," she cried, throwing her arms around me. "I didn't know. I didn't believe you," she sobbed uncontrollably into my shoulder. "How could they? How could Mom do that to you? To me? Mark, my husband." I held her, patting her back gently. The pain in her voice was raw. She was a victim, too. "I know, Sarah," I said quietly. "I know." The trust was damaged, but the love was still there. We were all that was left. The fallout was swift and devastating. Linda and Mark were arrested. The story was everywhere. They filed for divorce. Linda didn't contest it. She pleaded guilty to the charges and was sentenced to several years in prison. She lost everything. Mark also went to prison. His business collapsed. He was ruined. Dr. Evans lost his medical license, facing his own charges for conspiracy and falsifying medical records. Sarah filed for divorce from Mark. The betrayal shattered her. She moved back in with me, both of us navigating the wreckage of our lives. The house I built became our sanctuary for a short time. The healing process was slow and painful. Sarah and I rebuilt our relationship. One brick at a time, we found comfort in the shared trauma and the understanding that we were the survivors. But the silence in the house was a constant reminder of the betrayal. The ghost of Linda lingered in every room. The memories, once cherished, now felt poisoned. We eventually decided to sell the house. We needed a fresh start. We moved into a smaller, simpler house near the lake. I started working again. Small projects, custom furniture. My hands needed the work. The smell of sawdust and pine still felt like home. It was a comfort, constant. A year later, I was sitting on the porch of our new house, sanding a piece of walnut for a table I was building for Sarah. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The lake was calm. Sarah came out and sat next to me, handing me a glass of iced tea. She was smiling, a genuine smile. "It looks beautiful, Dad," she said softly, touching the smooth wood. "It's strong wood," I said. "Walnut, it will last." She looked at me, her eyes clear and calm. The pain was still there, a shadow behind her eyes, but it no longer defined her. She had found a strength she never knew she had. She was healing. "Dad," she said, her voice hesitant. "I was thinking about Mom today." I stopped sanding. "We rarely talked about Linda." "I still don't understand how she could do it," Sarah continued. "How she could be so cruel, to drug you, to lie to me." I looked out at the lake, reflecting on the past year, trying to understand the darkness that had consumed the woman I loved. "I don't think it was just cruelty, Sarah," I said slowly. "It was greed and fear. Fear of growing old. Fear of not having enough, and a bitterness that grew over the years. I thought about the years I spent working, providing, building. Maybe I hadn't paid enough attention. It grew like a weed in a garden I neglected," I admitted. "I realized that the strongest foundations are not made of brick and mortar, but of trust and communication, and once those foundations are cracked, the damage can be catastrophic. I was a builder. The betrayal had shaken me to my core, but it hadn't broken me. I picked up the sandpaper and started working again. The wood was rough under my fingers, slowly becoming smooth. Life goes on, and I would continue to build, but the memory of Linda's voice, plotting my destruction, the taste of the poison she fed me, that would remain with me forever. A scar on my soul. I had learned a hard lesson. Sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who hide the darkest secrets. And sometimes the only way to save yourself is to face the painful truth, even if it means shattering your world to save your soul. Thanks for listening. Please rate our story in the comments. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe.